So what we're doing here is a hands-on activity on making rope. And a lot of farms, you would get material coming in, you'd have string attached, and you would save the little pieces of string for when you might need something a little bit longer. And a rope making machine like this could be used to make a longer piece of rope. Nothing really, you wouldn't want to haul anything with, but it's good for tying up a lot of things, or just utility work. The way the rope works is that we're doing a 3-strand rope here. When we're using string and we're pretending that's yarn. So to make rope, what you would do is you would take fibers, just like over here with the spinners. You take fibers to make a yarn, and then you place the yarns next to each other, and you spin them next to each other in the opposite direction of the spin of the twist of the yarn. And then you take a bunch of those and you put them on, like we have 3 strands. Put those next to each other again, and again twist them in the opposite direction. So always opposites. And the reason for that is because the natural tendency for the yarns is to relax, and it wants to straighten out. And so instead of straightening out, it bumps into each other, and so it's able to hold. We tape the ends to kind of freeze or to secure the tension that's in there. What can I say about the rope itself? Oh, the good thing about rope is that once you've made it like this, it is now stronger than the individual yarns that you have. If you take the same number of yarns, put them next to each other, and try lifting something, there's a certain point where it will break. But if you twist it together like here, and then you try lifting it, you can lift a lot more before it breaks. So the tensile strength is better by making rope. So
it's quite impressive how tight this is.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's one of the oldest crafts. They were doing that in primitive times too, making usually out of grasses. So.
The day of history is finally here, a day late, but what's it been like to talk to people about Methuen's history?
Oh, it's always great to talk to people about Methuen history. I can talk forever with anybody, but it's great to see all the people and the enthusiasm they have for Methuen's history. A lot of people came in here that's never been in here before, and they're amazed at what they see. It's a beautiful building here, and talk about the history and just the building itself. Just the Tenney, also the Searles and the Nevins family, and the whole history of the town in general. But the people are very, very happy when they come in here. They're all excited to finally see it. Some people have never been in here, lived here all their lives, never seen what's in here. So it's kind of exciting. We got a lot of activities going on out in the back. I've been so busy here with talking with people coming in, but it's just been a great day all around. Just having, open up a door to, all the stuff that we have here. It's just an amazing city. History here is just, I can talk forever about it, but that's
For another day.
For another day, yeah. I can, well, another couple of days or maybe a couple of weeks.
Right. Do you, so you've been involved, obviously, as a historian. What do you think are maybe some of the most significant moments in Methuen's history?
Significant moments in Methuen's history. That's a good one. That's a good question. Of course, obviously, the 3 millionaires, their appearance in Methuen, and how they developed the city with the town at the time. Methuen was a tourist attraction back at the early part of the last century, late 1800s, early 1900s. People come here. Take a day like today, they would come out. The millionaires would open up their estates. People could walk their grounds. They were all well landscaped, and people would come, from Lawrence, Boston, wherever, take the train up here just to spend a day in Methuen. So I think probably the biggest thing that happened with Methuen was when the millionaires started to spend their money and build Methuen up into this beautiful place that we have here.
Each of these threads goes through a heddle in a harness, and each of these harnesses is connected to a treadle on the bottom of the loom. And around this side, as I'm weaving, I'm raising a harness. I'm alternating harnesses, so I've got 1 and 3 is on that treadle, and 2 and 4 is on that treadle. So that's what's locking the threads together, because there'll be a cross between the threads. So see how that went right in there, and the one that went over is now under.
Yep, I see that.
And then I'm going to swap it, so the one that was under is now over. And that's what locks this in. And you can make all sorts of different designs. This is just some examples here of designs. This is called double weave. So if you look at this, it's got where it has blue and white on this side, the other side is completely reversed. So you're weaving 2 layers and you're interlacing it. And this is what's something called M's and O's. So if you look at it this way, you kind of see the M's and the O's.
Okay.
And this is a sample of a color weave. So the different colors are the focal point on this piece. This is a bit of huck lace. It's hard to see on these colors, but you can kind of see the lace patterns here. This is lace also. And this one, and then this is what's called deflected double weave. Once I wash this, there's pieces here that have not been woven. This whole thing will shrink together, and this stuff will cover these open places, so it won't even look like. Yep, it tightens up. And then when you're done weaving the material, then you can, behind you, there's a jacket. So I actually spun the yarn in that jacket, and then I wove the material, and then I created a pattern for it, and I cut it out, and I sewed it.
Very nice.
So it took 3 years to do that.
3 years. I was
Yep.
going to say, this is a lengthy process.
It is. It's not quick. But it all starts, well, it actually starts on a sheep like this.
Correct.
If this had 4 legs, that's where it would start, and they shear it, and then it gets combed and carded into the roving and spun. And this is the same process that's used here is used today to make like your jeans, anything that's woven. So like your jeans are woven,
Yep.
they just do it on a big, huge machine that kind of does it all the way through the factory. But it's the same process.
Amazing.
It's thread that's going, you end up with thread that's going over and under to
The
create.
exact same process, just mechanical.
Just mechanical. So all I'm doing is going back and forth by changing treadles, and this is the beater bar, and that beats the thread in. And this is the shuttle with the bobbin in it that has the yarn on it, and it just feeds it out as I go across.
So the setup is probably the harder
The
part.
setup is the harder part, because you've got to get, if you're doing stripes or anything like that, you got to make sure you measure your stripes. You got to measure the whole length of this out. Ties on the back beam, then you got to thread it through each one of these petals, and then it has to come through the reed, and then it ties onto the front, and you got to make sure that whatever design you're doing, it's on the right harness. So like 1 has a quarter of the threads, and 3 has the other quarter of one set, and then 2 and 4 is the opposite.
Wow.
So it's if you're doing something really complicated, you have to make sure that you've threaded those petals correctly and that you've got things tied up to the right treadle on the bottom.
Well, we represent the Lawrence Light Infantry, the 6th Mass Regiment Company I of Lawrence, Massachusetts, formerly of the town of Lawrence. And why are we in Methuen? Well, there's a lot of Methuen crossovers. Half of our town, half of the city of Lawrence used to be Methuen. So, in any event, yeah, we were the Minutemen of 1861. You know, as the first to respond when Lincoln called for 75,000 troops. So we're the militia. We're not in what you think of as normal Union blue versus gray uniforms, Confederate. We're a Zouave unit. The militias all had their own favorite uniforms that they kind of rallied around and were honoring. So this is us. Basically, that's who we are.
Why is it important to remember this type of history?
That's a loaded question. In a time when people were always talking about Civil War, and this was a time when the country did go into Civil War, and passions were really high. Everyone had incredibly diverse opinions as to what was going on, and our unit, when we were called up, Governor Andrew got the adjutant general to cull the militia. Anybody who's old or disabled, you get out, because I think there's really going to be some action. And our unit was one of the ones that we did that. Our first to fall, Sumner Needham, he was a colonel, and he dropped back to a private just because he was older, but he wasn't really qualified to be a colonel. Prior to that, you could be an honorary colonel. You didn't do that anymore. You want the hardcore people who were going to go on campaign. For 3 months, they signed up to defend the Capitol against an inevitable attack, what they thought was an inevitable attack. Marching through Baltimore, April 19th, we were the first to be fired on in our attempt to save the Union. Three Union soldiers were killed that day. Sumner Needham, I can't think of the name. Luther Ladd, and Whitney.
Whitney.
Yes, and Whitney from Lowell. So Lawrence and Lowell, three casualties that day. 13 civilians in Baltimore. We made it to the Capitol. We got there, and Lincoln greeted everyone by hand. Massachusetts, the first to arrive. Thank God you were here. You have saved us. And so it's like that was just the first thing with our, these people who signed up to do this. They came in there, and their efforts perhaps saved the Union right from that point. It was a long battle after that. They thought it would be over in 3 months, if not 3 days. They were wrong. But there we are.
There was the abolitionist movement, and then there's states' rights, as far as, causes of the early Civil War stuff. And that was, back then, it was very important stuff. And Charles Sumner was attacked in the Capitol in one of the meetings by a Southern sympathizer, and he was almost killed. Charles Sumner, brutally, before the Civil War.
In a meeting?
In a chamber of legislative meeting.
Legislative meeting. Charles Sumner from Massachusetts.
Not the first time we've had violence in the Capitol.
Yeah, and he was from Massachusetts, so it was nasty then.
And
We've always been a nasty bunch, huh?
Some things never change.
and who went down to it? By the way, when we arrived down there, our unit, we occupied the Capitol. We slept in there. We actually cooked in there. We made a mess of the place.
Yeah.
The National Guard are descended because the militias morphed into the National Guard, and the National Guard went down recently after January 6th, a couple of years back, to do the same thing, occupy and defend. Once again, Massachusetts, right in there. We always get into it.
Exactly.
Coming through there, you came through here all the time. These people came through here. The people from history.
Yep.
But he can't believe it. 2 hour delay in Lawrence. He's sitting there writing this letter in the station in Lawrence to his wife. There's a
Wow.
translation of it.
Yeah, came to Lawrence.
So,
Tremendous.
yeah, there's that, and this Albert Dane.
Oh, Methuen guy.
He said the first Battle of Baltimore. He's one of the people who was there. He was the first pardon me. He was one of the Company I people who went through that battle, and he signed up later into the mass heavy artillery. A lot of people re-enlisted after the first 3 months. They were out. They could leave, but it's like this isn't over, and they got back in willingly. Albert Dame, formerly of Lawrence, now Methuen, right? So he's there's a bit of his history here, but we have these things here. You can check them out. But those are his buttons from his coat
That's awesome.
that he was wearing at that time during that battle, and also this is another artifact. This is one of the cartridge boxes that they were wearing at the time. As an infantry unit, these are their bullets. They have you can put 14 rounds in there, and this is one of the cartridge boxes that they were wearing through there. We have a couple of these. So again, that's over 100. That's 160 plus years old now, and just and that was we're not sure who wore that one, but.
The Albert's buried at Walnut Grove in Methuen.
Oh, wow.
Next to his father, Sylvanus, who's also a Civil War soldier.
Wow. A lot of connections.
Yes. 300.
Happy
Happy 200, 300 Methuen. Happy 250 United States.
Yes, happy 300 Methuen, and to the United States, huzzah!
Huzzah!
I think they worked hard on that
My name is Mel Romero. I'm the first sergeant for 169th Infantry, 43rd Division Fox Company. We were members of the National Guard from Connecticut, Vermont, and Maine. One of the first Army units to actually go overseas after Pearl Harbor. The first time we saw action would have been in 1942, earlier in the place called Guadalcanal. Unfortunately, we live in a time now where we're starting to lose our World War II veterans very quickly. And so a lot of what we do, and if you see all of this here, comes out of our own personal collections. The reason that we do this is in order to preserve that history, to preserve those stories, to go ahead and tell the stories that got told to us to new people so they can go out and be inspired to go out and learn about this themselves. Because if we lose this history, this recent history, if we lose that, then we're not doing so well. So today we're presenting the life of an infantry soldier as they would have existed in the Pacific Theater, so all over Southeast Asia and the Oceania area, as it was. We want to give a little bit of reality. We allow people to come in and pick up our items, to handle them, to see exactly what soldiers had with them and carried with them. This would have been the field uniform that your average soldier would have worn in the Pacific.
So I'm Second Lieutenant Mason Crawford. This is our grandfather's or my grandfather's unit. Sorry. So we come out here and we portray the 43rd Infantry Division, Connecticut National Guard, and their stories throughout the Pacific Theater.
Is there any specific story that you have in your mind that you'd like to tell the viewers?
So it was one of the few stories we were able to get from my grandfather before he passed away. But he talked a little bit about their battle at Munda Point.
Okay.
And so it was on a little island of New Georgia in the South Pacific. And all he talked about was how long it took them from the beach landing to actually capturing the airfield. And it took them about 90 days.
Wow.
And it wasn't a big span, like a big stretch of land. It was about, a little over a couple, like 2-3 miles to get down to this airfield. And they took, the 43rd itself ended up taking like lot of casualties, a lot more casualties than what was expected, especially being the spear point of the attack on this airfield.
Okay.
And most of those casualties being neurological casualties. It was called combat neurosis at the time, which is now known as PTSD.
Wow. Okay. So they just couldn't handle the time away and how long it took to get there. And
Nope, and it's kind of hard when you send a bunch of city New Englanders to the South Pacific and have them deal with the wet conditions, trudging through waist high water. It's humid, it's hot, it's raining all the time, and you're being completely eaten alive by mosquitoes and other bugs the entire time.
oh yeah, I can see it. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Why is it important to remember these stories and tell these stories to people that don't know?
So I always like to think of it as these men and women who have fought and served, they put everything on the line. They gave everything they had, and some of them did give everything they had. And so to be able to pass on these stories and to pass on the history that they gave to us to be where we are and to be free in this country, it's really important to remember what they fought for.
Well, my name is Jack Laramie. I'm the commander of the 104th Infantry Regiment, which goes back to 1639 here in Massachusetts. And they were known for that, and they really became known during World War I, where they were awarded the Croix de Guerre, one of the first big regiments to go over there. And that's when the Yankee Division was actually formed during World War I. So it formed we're part of the 26th Division, Infantry Division of the what they called the Yankee Division, and it's been called that ever since. So they got a bunch of different regiments with that. We're with the 104th within that group. But we've been reenacting here in New England for, I think, since the late 80s. Yeah, and I myself didn't really get into this till like about 2007. When I got into it, as you can imagine, back in '07, there was a lot more veterans around.
Yes.
And wives of veterans, and even females that were WACs and nurses during the time. And you meet all these people. And for me, that was the big draw. I mean, that is, growing up, you knew a few people, but when you go to an event like this, you meet them all.
Right.
And you become friends with these people. They'll be calling you on the phone, and you talk to them, and you become very good friends. So when we lose them, it's an extension of a family,
exactly.
And then you meet their family, and then they talk stories, and they'll say, he or she never told us this, Grandpa never said this, Grandma never said this, and so we try to keep the stories alive, and I can't tell you how many funerals I've been to. But we go to the funerals and we meet the families and we start talking and we tell them some of the stories. Some stories we don't tell them that, they wouldn't want them to know, little secrets and stuff. But it's the greatest generation, and I'm really happy to be a part of it, very proud to be a part of it.
Good job, guys. Cleared. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Day of history had to be moved.
Never.
Weather, is such a factor of these events. But what would you, what does this mean, I guess, to have a day that's devoted to historical events?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Mother Nature was not kind to us yesterday, which happens. But this city derives so much of its past from its love and shared history, and having a day specifically to celebrate that, is very important. I mean, at the end of the day, we want people to have fun. That's what Methuen 300 is all about. But we also need to remember why we're doing this and the people and the history that came before us that made this community so wonderful. So it's a great day to celebrate. We have a very good crowd here. It's great. You know, people are flexible, which is good. Weather's holding out for us now. I don't know if it will be that way in a couple hours. So thank God it ends at 3. But no, it's good. It was very well done. Kudos to Joy Carpowitz. She did a great job. And I know because of the cancellation, we're actually going to have a couple more smaller events that we're supposed to play off of this. So you get a little bit more bang for your buck now because of Mother Nature, which is good.
You've been obviously one of the people leading the effort to celebrate this. Gosh, we're most of the way through. How do you feel it's been going?
I know. I think it's been going well. You know, the community has really started to rally around Methuen 300, which is great. And you know, our big event, I think, our closing ceremony, for lack of a better term, with this concert and this festival, is going to be the event I think that really is for everyone. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the crowds there. I know Neil Hunter and his team are working really hard to make it a successful event. And you know, at that point, we're going to end there. And I know the 4th of July is going to have a little bit of a 300 twist to it. And we'll conclude Methuen's 300 celebration, which will be, you know, which I hope everyone enjoyed. And I hope that, you know, in 50 years when they're doing the 350th, I can tell you right now, I won't be in charge. But I really hope that they can look back and see the pride that we took when it came to celebrating the 300th, just like we did when it came to celebrating the 250th. So I really hope that people enjoyed these events. I hope that the future generations take a lot from the love that everyone involved with this has for their city, and that they can keep that love and dedication going forward.